Last year was really a wash for me when it came to the creative department. Due to a slew of factors, 2022 was just a wash for me when it came to creativity as well as productivity. That's why this year I really wanted to set up a plan to inspire my creativity and really pull me out of this creative slump that I was in pretty much all last year. And since we are turning over into a new year, I felt like it was the perfect time to set up some New Year's resolutions for my artistic journey. But I didn't want to create goals that I would just fail in a couple of weeks down the road. First off, that would be a recipe for disaster for me, especially after last year's debacle. I really wanted to set up goals this year that I knew I could achieve, but also keep me from basically falling into a creative slump. So here is how I am doing that this particular year. Now, if you've been following me for some time, you know that I absolutely love New Year's. I love New Year's resolutions. I love setting goals for myself. It's something that I actually really do like doing. But last year, I had a hard time keeping up with my goals. And it just became this onward spiral, basically. It started as like this small snowball and then just got larger and larger and larger, of basically this huge despairing feeling that I could never keep up with the goal that I had set at the very beginning of the year. So I really wanted to make sure that I started with a good list of things that I actually wanted to achieve. So that's what I did. The very first thing I did was started making a list of every type of goal that I could think of, no matter how far-fetched, no matter how small. I basically listed out everything that I could possibly think of that I would want to do related to art. The point of this list was not to really organize it at the moment. It was basically just to brain dump anything and everything that I might possibly want to achieve, whether it be this year or next year or 5 years from now or 10 years from now. It didn't matter. I just wanted to brain dump as much as possible into my journal and not really put boundaries on myself in this particular step. The next thing that I did was basically chose a couple of the goals that I had basically brain dumped on the previous step. I chose a couple of them, no more than 5, that really were tugging at my heart. And then what I started doing is on a separate sheet of paper, started laying out steps that needed to be accomplished for those particular goals to be achieved. So as an example, one of the dreams that I really want to do is someday illustrate a children's book. It's something that's going to be way off in the future, but if I just continue to write down that goal of, I want to eventually write a children's book, I want to eventually write a children's book, it's never going to get done because that particular goal is so large. It's not going to happen overnight. It needs to be broken down into steps that are smaller, that are more manageable for me to achieve. So what I decided to do for this particular year is just basically read books on publishing a children's book, publishing, illustrating, books, basically anything that is basic knowledge that I need to learn in order to achieve that goal. So basically the knowledge foundation of that particular goal was what I decided to basically pursue for this particular year. Another thing that I could add to that particular step is like, what kind of tools do illustrators use, or what kind of learning curve is with those tools, such as when I started editing videos, there was a huge learning curve for me learning how to actually edit videos inside of Premiere Pro or Adobe Edition. Is there any learning curve for me trying to put together basically a children's illustrated book and using specific tools that other illustrators might be using? So that kind of is what I was thinking along the lines of basically trying to learn from other people this particular year and basically absorb as much knowledge as possible. And this is honestly the step where I feel like a lot of people fall, or basically they fail at their New Year's resolutions or even goals throughout the year, me included. So a lot of times we'll set up this huge list of ideas, and some of us will create kind of a game plan to go about doing those, but we don't actually set realistic goals for ourselves. We just decide to try and eat the whole elephant at one time instead of doing it at small little increments. And that is what I did next. So after I kind of developed a game plan of what type of goals that I really wanted to go into this year, I then started setting realistic expectations for myself. So here's kind of an idea. I'm pretty good at drawing, I would say a couple of times a week. But if you have not been drawing at all for the past couple of months, setting a goal that you're going to draw for 30 minutes a day, every single day, is going to really overwhelm you, and you're going to fail at that goal most likely. It's better to basically break it down. So instead of doing every single day, maybe do 30 minutes for 3 times a week. Or for me, basically, I'm going to be trying to set where I sit down for 5 to 10 minutes every single day. Now, I typically draw, I would say 4 times a week. So that is more of a realistic expectation for me. The problem is I have a really bad time of if I feel like I can't sit for like 30 minutes to an hour, I typically just go, whatever, I'm not going to do it. So that's the reason why I'm setting the goal for myself, just to sit down for 5 minutes to 10 minutes, basically a YouTube video, play a YouTube video in the background, and just sketch something that might be absolute crud. But the whole point is basically to sit down for that period of time and try at least to draw something during that 5 to 10 minutes. Now, if I feel really inspired that particular day, I can spend 30 minutes to an hour drawing as much as I want to. The whole point is not to limit myself where I only draw 5 to 10 minutes. It's to set basically a habit of me at least drawing for 5 to 10 minutes every single day. Now, another thing you can do, and I have done this, I actually did this last year, and it did help, I will say. I started doing it around October, and it slowly started helping me kind of get out of that creative slump. But instead of trying to draw every single day, another thing that I did was basically set up this time frame of every single day I have to do something art related. So for 5 to 10 minutes, I'd either watch a YouTube video, I would art related, something drawing related, watch a course on something drawing related. I mainly did drawing type stuff because I was really trying to learn how to draw people at the time. But another thing is read a book. So that way, if you feel overwhelmed or intimidated by basically drawing every single day, if you are at least spending 5 to 10 minutes a day of doing something that is basically getting you to sit in one location and work on something art related that you are interested in, that is still going to help you get your goals down, because you're still stimulating your brain and trying to basically get it to start thinking about different ways to draw certain things or do certain things in your art journey, as well as I've found with myself, if I am reading from other artists' perspectives, specifically reading from other artists' perspectives, I get really inspired by what they're saying, and I kind of want to implement that into my life. So that's another way that you can kind of create a flexible goal that is more realistic than just saying, oh, I'm going to become an artist and basically draw every single day for 30 minutes. Because I think sometimes we take too much at the same time and just chunk it in. And another thing that I think we all do is, and I actually just did it right now, so I'm going to correct myself. A lot of times we think I have to be doing such and such in order to be considered an artist. or I have to be doing something in order to be considered creative, basically. Well, the thing is, if you are creating art, you are an artist. Somebody on TikTok, and I can't remember who said it, they're an artist that I follow on there, and they basically said, when is it that you consider yourself a runner if you've started training to run in a marathon? Well, basically you're a runner as soon as you decide to start running. Well, the same is true if you're an artist. If you are basically pursuing art in any way, you are considered an artist. Now, of course, there is a difference between a professional artist, and I totally understand that. But I feel like a lot of times, at least with me, I'll get down on myself if I feel like I'm not doing enough art to consider myself an artist. But at the same time, if I am pursuing it, I am an artist. So anyway, that's a little tidbit for you in the middle of this video. So the next thing that I did, and this is something new that I just started doing this particular year, is once I basically set up my plan and basically organized a realistic goal for me to pursue, I then basically created an organized space. So for me, it's a box. So I felt like the best way to accomplish the goal that I wanted to was to make sure I had everything that I could possibly need in one particular location. So for me, I really like to draw and do a lot of my creative brainstorming on the couch, curled up next to my puppies. And as a result, I put everything in a box that is very, very close to my couch. I basically picked up this really cutesy little fabric box from Home Goods, and everything that I could possibly need, such as tools or books or sketchbooks or pens or pencils or even a pencil sharpener or any type of artistic books that I might be reading at the time. I put all of those inside of that box so that all I have to do whenever I feel like it's time to sit down for my 5 to 10 minutes and really pursue this goal, everything is there. All I got to do is just pull it out from my bookshelf, open it up, and it's ready to go. So basically anything that I might need to tackle my goal is super easy and accessible for me to get. So I don't have to like sit down and go, oh, crud, I don't have this and I don't have that. And then I'm going and getting all of those things when I just want to sit down and just be in the brain of I'm going to be drawing at this particular time, or I'm going to be researching at this particular time or whatnot. I want everything readily available for me so that when I decide to sit down, my ADHD brain doesn't get distracted and go, ooh, bunny, to something else. It's just all right there ready for me to tackle at that time. And finally, the last thing that I want to talk about is basically if you are pursuing a goal, the whole point of a goal should not be something that you are trying to accomplish over the entire year. Like I said, I have goals that I really want to pursue for 2023, but I'm not setting my entire goal to be for the entire year. That is way too overwhelming. What I'm doing is trying to set up a habit. So what I usually do is I start with a week and I go, okay, for this particular week, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then if I get that entire week done with those particular goals, then I move on to, okay, let's try, since I got this done, let's try and work for an entire month. If you can do something for 30 days straight, you have set up basically a habit. And a habit is going to be something that you can build upon because it's in small stepping stones. The reason why I say that is because a goal should not be basically pushing you. You should be evaluating and changing the goal to meet you. So I found last year a lot of the times when I set a large goal that I wanted to do for a long period of time, I felt like that particular goal was basically pushing me around, and it wasn't fun anymore, and it really wasn't challenging because that particular goal was just plummeting me to the ground. But I noticed in October, and you probably noticed I've started saying a lot of this stuff happened in October. So I've actually been doing quite a bit of this stuff since October, but I'm trying to create more of a holistic, I guess, goal instead of just little small tidbit goals that I started in October, kind of build upon it. But in October, I noticed when I started setting smaller goals for myself, such as working on a goal for a week or working on a goal for 30 days, I found that those particular goals I stuck with a lot better than ones that were like long-term goals. Another thing that I noticed was if I really liked my weekly goals, to be perfectly honest, because at the end of the week, if I could look back over what I had accomplished, I could usually tweak those goals and change them to fit more of what I needed at that particular moment. So if I needed something to be a little bit harder, I could tweak it and basically make it a little bit more difficult. Or if I felt like, oh, I was really struggling this week with this particular goal, and it felt like it was running over me instead of me basically pushing through it. Let's pull back a little bit, and just reevaluate it and change it for what works for me. So basically, the point of a goal is not to make you feel inferior about yourself. Rather, it is to be more of a guide map, helping you get accomplished what you really desire or what you really want. And a lot of these goals that I wrote down are basically bucket item, like end of life bucket item list things. I'm not really into like skydiving or anything like that, but there are a couple of things that I really want to do in my art related things before I leave this earth. And a lot of them are actually pretty easy to do. I just have to set up a map for myself and kind of little guideposts to get those done along and along instead of just jumping in full force and then overwhelming myself. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this. This is basically my thoughts on how I pursue artistic goals, specifically New Year's goals, and how I'm going about tackling them to really stay out of a creative slump like I had last year. If you are setting goals for yourself, I know some people don't like to do that. It overwhelms them, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody has their own journey when they're pursuing art, and that is perfectly fine. But if you are pursuing artistic goals this particular year, what types of goals are you looking to work on this particular year? They can be small ones, they can be big ones. But basically kind of tell me your thoughts down below, and I will be reading those and commenting back. And yeah, that's it for this particular video. Lots of love, y'all. Bye.